This town in Sicily is one of the few places in the world where the chocolate is still made the old Aztec way.
A recipe that started in Central America traveled to Spain and somehow ended up in Modica.
We've been actually excited about this place for a while, so we reached out to them and they were kind enough to let us go behind the curtain and see how the whole process really works.
From raw cocoa beans all the way to the chocolate bars in the shop. Hi, we're Annie.
And Lucas.
And this is our channel, Spark of Sicily. We share our life and experiences in Sicily unfiltered. Today, we are at Antica Dolceria Bonajuto in Modica, the oldest chocolate factory in Sicily.
Honestly, we were really excited to film this one. Not only were we welcomed by Mr. Ruta himself, whose family has been running this place for 6 generations, but the whole visit was about chocolate, so we were very happy.
It's fair to say we are both very big fans.
Bonajuto is a sweet shop and even the oldest chocolate factory here in Sicily.
Here in Sicily?
Yeah.
So how old exactly?
The last documents we found, the oldest documents we found is from the grandfather of my grandfather, is from Francesco Ignazio Bonajuto, is dated 1854.
1854.
Yeah.
And what makes the place interesting? What makes it unique?
What makes it interesting? This place is interesting because we have many traditions that are typical of the Modica country, because Modica was a Spanish county during the Spanish domination, and so arrived many products that are typical of this town, like biscuits, but even chocolate, because it's a cold processed chocolate. We do not have cocoa butter. It's a sort of grainy chocolate because we work at about 45 degrees Celsius during all the process, and that's why the sugar never melts inside. So when you feel a piece of this kind of chocolate, you will feel a grainy texture in the mouth, but many of the original flavors with this kind of process doesn't disappear during the process.
Before we even got to the chocolate, we were taken into the bakery. Hairnets, lab coats, the full transformation. And honestly, it felt really special to be allowed inside and see this part of the process up close.
This is where many of the traditional Modican pastries are still made by hand, just like they have been for generations.
One of the most iconic ones are these S-shaped cookies called nucatoli. We saw whole trays of them coming straight out of the oven, filled with almonds, honey and dried fruit.
And then there are the famous mpanatigghi, probably one of the most unusual pastries in Sicily.
Because they contain meat and chocolate.
Which sounds strange today, but back then it actually was very clever.
They date back to Spanish period in Sicily. The Spaniards brought recipes that combined meat, spices and chocolate, and here in Modica, people adopted them to local ingredients.
Chocolate wasn't just for flavor, it helped preserve the filling and added energy, which made these pastries practical for travel or long days of work.
So what sounds unusual today was actually a smart solution at the time. And because Modica tends to hold on its traditions, these pastries are still made here today.
We also saw other traditional cookies being prepared, trays of dough that would soon become the pastries you see in the shop.
Everything here felt very handmade, local and true to tradition.
Then we moved into the chocolate workshop, and this is where the story gets really interesting.
Because the way chocolate is made in Modica actually comes from Aztecs.
The Aztecs were an ancient civilization in Central America. They were among the first to use cocoa, but not as a sweet chocolate bars. They drank it as bitter spiced drink.
When the Spanish arrived in the Americas, they brought cocoa and those traditions back to Europe. And at the time, Sicily was actually under Spanish rule.
So yes, a small history fact in your chocolate video, it wouldn't be us without it.
But that's how this method ended up in Modica, and the incredible part is that they never switched to the modern industrial process.
So the chocolate is still made in a much older way. It starts with cocoa beans. They are cut open to check the fermentation, then roasted to develop the flavor.
After that, the shells are removed and the cocoa nibs are ground into thick cocoa paste.
And this is where Modica chocolate becomes different. The paste is heated only to a low temperature, around 40 to 45 degrees.
That's not hot enough for the sugar to fully melt, so the crystals stay inside the chocolate.
Which is why Modica chocolate has that slightly grainy, crunchy texture instead of being completely smooth.
We even got to taste a roasted cocoa bean.
It was very bitter, like aggressively bitter.
Your face was not convincing.
But I actually liked it. It tasted like real pure chocolate, just without the sugar.
And that's when Pierpaolo told us something interesting. He said technically you can't even call it chocolate until sugar is added, even just a little bit.
So what I tasted was basically the pre-chocolate stage. And is it true that the process comes from actually Spanish that brought it to here from? Yes.
Yeah. Even many names, for example, the biscuits are named in Sicilian dialect mpanatigghi because the name comes from the Spanish word empanadas and panadillas that came directly from Spanish. To Sicilian language.
That's what's making this place so interesting, Sicily, because many cultures bring something what stays here, and sometimes it's exciting like this.
After the workshop, we went back into the shop and it was constantly full of people.
Which is always a good sign.
The staff were incredibly kind and of course we had to try a flavor or two.
Our favorite was the cinnamon chocolate.
Also, the favorite of Pierpaolo, whose family has been running this place for 6 generations.
We also really liked the Peru and the lemon ones.
And another favorite of mine was jasmine.
And by the way, at the time we are recording this voiceover, about a week after filming,
all of the chocolate is already gone.
Except for a few pieces we bought as a gift.
Which we are trying very hard not to open.
If you come to Modica, this place is definitely worth a visit.
Not just for the chocolate, but for the story behind it. A recipe that started with the Aztecs, traveled through Spain, and somehow survived here for centuries.
And also one of the few places where meat and chocolate peacefully coexist.
And if Sicily is more than just a trip for you, we also offer personal relocation consultations, where we share our real experience and help you plan your move here.
You can find all the details on our website, linked in the description and in our bio.
And if you enjoy these kinds of videos, don't forget to like and subscribe.
We really love seeing our little community slowly growing, and we appreciate every single one of you.
Thank you for watching and see you in the next one. Ciao!